Rupert. Yes, right. Here we are, someone else now. We're talking parking charges in Hagley Park.
Sure.
So I'm going to move it on to...
Thank you. We were asked to go away and look at two scenarios of a different charging regime. They effectively both said the same thing, which is charge 2/3 of the proposed $4 plus GST. The information's in front of you, alongside the original information that was put to you the first time it came. So what I can confirm is we can modify the charge through the device to be a whole charge for a set period of time, and it can be set up per hour. It's very, very flexible. So whatever the decision is, it's essentially a revenue decision. And with the staff proposal still being what was consulted on.
Okey-doke, we've got three. We've got Tyler, then Sarah, then Yanni.
Kia ora, I've got a couple of questions. The first one is, can you talk to me around the OPEX and why it's so high? Maybe you need a bit of reminding.
That's not OPEX, that's revenue.
Okay, that's income.
So just to be clear, the draft long-term plan suggested, and the base rates in the draft long-term plan included an additional $2 million of revenue. All the options that you're looking at are reduction in that revenue, therefore impact on rates.
Okay, and what pot would that go into in terms of the revenue? Would that go into just a big pot to offset the rates?
Yeah. Yep.
Essentially, it's funding.
It goes in the big bucket
across the...
And so I'm struggling a little bit with this based on a lot of the submissions that we've had. And I'm just wondering if there are ways in being a bit more agile in where we actually charge it. I'm thinking around the botanical gardens in particular. And the question I have is there anything stopping us from setting up a 2-hour limit? Anyone goes over that 2-hour limit within that car park of the botanical gardens area, and then they get charged after that in comparison to the on-street on Hagley Park?
That's what all of these options have produced for you.
Okay.
Different iterations of the impact of revenue loss and what that does to rates. So yes, we can dial it up any particular way you like.
Okay.
And we've explored something like 6 options now.
Yep.
Including the ones that are up there today.
I'll try and track down those options.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sarah, please.
Yeah, actually, I'd like to propose, since we're kind of discussing what we might put in the Mesrex, actually, that we do the weekends free. Stick with the charging during weekdays at $4 for 3 hours, and you can just choose. Yeah.
Option 1.
Yeah. I'm just going to say, because we're discussing here what we might put in the Mesrex, and that would be my proposal that goes in the Mesrex. I think that that's a nice compromise. So.
Yanni?
Thank you. One thing that struck me from the other day is that we're not quite clear where this is applying. Is there a map of where this is going to apply?
It applies to all car parks in Hagley Park except the Multicultural Recreation Centre.
Right.
So I can rattle them off for you.
Yeah, I mean,
Botanic
I just think
Gardens,
visually-
Riccarton Ave. There's 2 off Riccarton Ave.
Yeah.
And the Botanic Gardens car park.
So
That's the only place that these charges apply.
So if this is for revenue raising, then why are we not considering this is $20 million in our LTP, which is half of all the cost savings and additional revenue that we've identified out of the 40 million. So it's a major part of what we've done to try and...
Your
The
worship,
purpose is
would
also
it
the
be
public
helpful
service.
if we...
So-
Wait.
So, but fine, if it's not revenue raising, if it's for other reasons...
Yanni,
So
please
people can
go-
get a park when
like,
they need it.
Might just be helpful if Andrew recap
Well
what the
traversed.
rationale was for this.
No, I mean, I'm clear what it is in my head, but regardless, there's a number of places around Botanic Gardens and Hagley Park, like Riccarton Ave, for example, which are not metered, are not charged, particularly around the hospital. So I'm just trying to understand, the children's playground is another one where people do park all day and it's free.
This is Hagley Park we're talking about, buddy?
Yeah, so what consideration was given? Because we had a number of submitters that said, we think you should be charging and you should charge in other areas, right? That was quite a common thing that came through submissions. So were there any other areas that we considered when we looked at what possible impact this might have on those other sites in terms of putting more people going there where we're not charging?
Look, I'm not entirely sure I'm clear on the question, but before we put this into the draft LTP, the initial proposal was, and some councillors may recall, Hagley Park, Ngāpunawai. I think they were the two key areas. There was concerns about Ngāpunawai because there are no real options outside of parking inside the park, and the impact on residents would have been more than significant. So what was baked into the plan was car parking for Hagley Park, and as has been said before, the rationale for that is the car parks are there for recreation by virtue of the Act. People are parking in Hagley Park for non-recreational purposes.
Correct.
That is why this was put in the plan.
And that's why I put in the Mayor's Rec, and it's in the Mayor's Recs already, about weekends free. Yeah, so we're covering it all off. Sorry, Victoria, before you pull in.
Thank you. Just supplementary to Councillor Harrison Hunt's question, is there any increase in OPEX costs associated with the enforcement of the new parking charges, or will it just be folded into?
It's negligible because there are limits that are loosely followed, but our existing parking staff do wander through Hagley Park. They're mostly looking at compliance around warrant of fitness and registration and so forth. But the workforce exists.
Is it anticipated that there'll be further enforcement as this beds in? And have we got the capacity?
Well, I guess
and
it
the
naturally flows that if people are parking beyond, exceeds the time that they've paid for, yes, there'll be enforcement and, higher revenues as a consequence of fines.
So there'll be no additional OPEX costs as a result of these changes?
It's not anticipated. No.
Thank you.
Generally speaking, most people play the game.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Pauline.
Thank you. And that if there was, it comes out of the revenue anyway.
Yep.
But look, this is probably a really dumb question, but so forgive me, but alternative staff option 2, if somebody, so that gives you 2 hours parking for $4. If somebody wanted to park for 3 hours, what would that cost them? Do you have to buy?
So, sorry, alternative option 2 was to change the number of cycles from 3 cycles per day to 4.
Yeah.
And that means a 2-hour parking window versus a 3-hour parking window.
If you wanted to, so you pay, if you wanted to stay there for 3 hours, what would it cost you? Would you have to buy 2 cycles and pay $8?
You would. It would essentially cost you twice the amount.
So is there any way that you could?
Yeah, we've got to be careful we don't get to the point of splitting hairs for the...
Yeah.
Because I like that option, except that I don't think 2 hours is long enough for some people who might want 3 hours if you're taking the kids to the paddling pool, for example. But if you could make it, the 3 hours was $6, so you could buy your first cycle and then half of another one. Can the machine do that?
Yeah. Yes, the machine can do that. What we've tried to show you
That's good.
is...
That's enough. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the answer. The machine can dial it up however you want to.
Thank you. Timothy.
Yes. So at the moment, if you want to take your kids to the paddling pool, etc., generally you won't get a park during the week because all the workers are there. But if you look at Google Maps and you look at Harper Ave and Deans Ave, I've never not had a park in those 2 sites. And if you are physically capable and you want to go to work, then the extra few hundred metres is not going to allow that Botanic Gardens and both, or the 3 Hagley parks, to allow families, etc., to enjoy the park for recreation, for what those parks are actually originally designed for. I've got no problem with this at all, and I think that if people are so bloody lazy that they can't walk a couple of hundred metres,
Be kind, Tim. Be
I just think we're debating
Okay,
something.
we've got one last question from
Ridiculous.
Tyrone.
Is it me?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Remind me what hours that would be enforceable between if it was done on weekdays? Is that between 9 and 5?
Oh, now you got me. I think it's 8 o'clock. 9 hours from 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we're very mindful that a lot of people coming to recreate come from about 5 o'clock onwards, and we didn't want people to have to pay. So it's more about, you know, people coming to work. So, yeah.
So in theory, you could make it enforceable between like 8 and 3, and give us a weekday window.
No, it's at 9 hours is what is proposed. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
8 to 4.
And just another thing, just on the back of that. So if we did go for the option of making it weekends free, we can bump up the cost of like during the week.
Sorry, I'm finding it hard to hear you. Are you windsurfing?
Tyrone,
at the
you
moment?
might. I know you're at somewhere where it's 4,000 degrees. You might just have to move out of the wind a bit, mate.
Oh, sorry, I'll do that. But just quickly again, the I've forgotten my bloody question now.
I think, Your Wish, it was if the weekends are free, could you recover that loss?
Oh yeah, a little bit more cost, a little bit more charge. Yeah, exactly. A little more charge during the week.
Okay, thank you, mate. Right, that's good. Thanks,
So if
Andrew.
you're wanting guidance, I'm kind of liking option 2, providing the machine can give people 3 hours for $6 rather than having to buy if you want to be there.
That would change the income forecast, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But it's a significant difference in the rate impact for the same level of service.
I guess, look, because we can do this so many different ways,
We can play with it. Yeah.
elected members might want to think about less about how we do it and more about the cost.
Do we do it?
And then we can tailor the response to the cost.
Fantastic answer. Tyler had his hand up, and he is the last one.
I'm struggling with this a little bit. I'm just sort of not sure why we're not just chucking a P120 on at the Botanical Gardens, because the point of this was to stop long-term parkers from it, and it scares them off. It's a mitigant, and they'll get charged if they go over the 2 hours. For me, I feel like it's hitting the ones that are at the lowest level. I mean, that Botanical Garden playground gets used so much. So then it's about enforcement. Why don't we up the enforcement on it? That's just my thoughts, but
Okay. No,
Be a bigger impact financially on people.
Andrew, it looks like somewhere between. But as you say, we decide to do it, then you can massage and play with it, knowing how much you're either going to make, upset people, or not earn when you get the nod to do it. Yep. Okay.
The tickets more.
Righto. That's good. We have now rating for renewals.
We do. Few rating